Today we're going to be covering how we do firmware updates on our devices. So I'll be covering the different methods that you can use to do the updates, as well as where you can go and sign up for the email distribution to find out when we release new updates. The first part, if you haven't already, is to get on that email distribution list so you know when we do release those updates. So the first step is to come to our homepage, which is tenzig.com. And we'll go to the resources section, and under resources we will click support FAQs. The first link on the support FAQ page you'll see is a link to sign up for that email distribution list, and that way you get the latest updates as we release them. Now, when there's an update that you may want to apply to your devices, or maybe possibly you have some older devices you just want to get updated to the latest version, you simply will reach out to us either through email, and you can reach us at support@tenzig.com, or you could give us a call and provide us with the devices information that you have, and we will then provide you with a direct download link to get the latest firmware files. This is a firmware file for one of our VMware 0 clients, and we can see the release is 10.12.165 hotfix 18, and this is the one we're going to be using for our example. Now, we have two different ways that you can apply this firmware to a unit. The first method is through our management software called Tenzig Manager, which is absolutely free of cost. There's no additional charges for that, and comes with our units. The other method is with a USB key. So we can use a standard USB key to do the update, and I'll be covering both processes in this video. So the first method is through the Tenzig Manager. And if you haven't already installed this, we will be having another video on how to do the installation of the Tenzig Manager, and we'll provide those links below this video. But if you already have it installed, simply go into the console, find the unit that you want to update, and we'll right-click on it and select Firmware Update. Now, inside of the Firmware Packages window, the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to import that file that we just downloaded, that tar file, into the console so we can apply it to the unit or multiple units. To do that, we'll click Install in the bottom left corner, browse to our download directory, and select the tar file. Now, this is going to go through a process of copying the file into our repository and making it available for the console to apply to the different units. Now, if we drop down on our VMware 0 client, we should see the .18 hotfix. This is the one that we just downloaded, and we can see now that it's available to be deployed. Now, we give you a couple different options when you go to deploy the firmware, because keep in mind that when you deploy firmware, it will cause the device to reboot. So we could have some impact to working users. So of course, we definitely recommend applying firmware to during off hours if users are involved. If not, you can select some of these options, such as allowing the user to postpone the install, applying the firmware if the unit has been sitting idle for a certain amount of time, or even applying it during the next reboot. So if we go ahead and hit apply, will apply that current firmware to the device. I'm going to go ahead and cancel on this so we can talk about a couple different other options that we have in the console to deploy the firmware. We can also schedule the firmware as a job. So if we right click on the unit again, we can select Add Schedule Task, and we can go ahead and do a This will allow us to schedule the job in the future. So if we wanted to go ahead and install the firmware on the weekend, we can select Update Device Firmware. And you can see that it brings up the same window. You can select the firmware version that we want to apply. And then we can select the date and time that we want it applied. So if we wanted to do it this Saturday night at 11:28 p.m., it will allow us to schedule this as a job to deploy. Okay, so a couple different ways that we can apply firmware through the management console, so the Tenzig Manager. Now, the other method is through a USB key that we talked about. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to copy this file to a USB key. You can see I've already done that on this USB key that we have here. And then we're going to need to do one step on the unit itself. So I'm going to shadow it, and this will allow us to make the security setting change that we need to allow it to install from the USB key. So we're going to go into security settings in the control panel, and we're going to select enable installation from USB storage, and we're going to click OK, and we'll close out of the window. Now I'm going to take that USB key and plug it into the unit. And you're going to see now that we are able to, it recognizes that there is a firmware update file on the USB key and allow us to run the install directly from the key. So these are the two methods that we have. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us via phone or email. We are happy to help you with your deployment. Thank you. Have a great day.